Okay, here we are. Hello everyone. It's March the 10th today. Actually 3 days ago already, Saturn moved into Pisces. It's been an intense 3 days, I find. The energy definitely shifted quite sharply. At least that's my perception. I mean, I have lots of personal planets at the 0 degree mark around, so I'm always kind of very much sensing these changes to affect me personally. So anyway, here we are 3 days into Saturn in Pisces, and Saturn will be in Pisces for quite a long time, as Saturn moves once around the zodiac in 29.5 years. That's pretty much the same number of days the moon takes from new moon to new moon, or from full moon to full moon, which means it's the moon traveling once around the zodiac plus 2.5 days, which is what the sun's movement is for the moon to catch up. Anyway, the 29.5 is interesting. There is this kind of resonance between the moon and Saturn. It's kind of the two parents. That's how one could see their energies, and naturally also in the zodiac they represent these two opposite signs. We have the moon ruling Cancer, and at this opposite end is Saturn ruling its own side, Capricorn. So it is this axis, this parental axis, one could call it. Also, the Cancerian is rooted in tradition in the past. It's that deep core of Earth. The tree trunk is kind of anchored in, and Capricorn being the crown of the tree, how we express in life, what crown we are wearing, what hat, how we show ourselves in the world in a very general way. Saturn being that. So Saturn is a really important planet in astrology. Naturally, it is the outermost of the traditional planets, of those who notably were known for thousands of years. And Saturn is the great teacher. And Saturn has now entered, as we saw, this window into 25-26 for the first time. Saturn then will cross the 0 Aries mark in end of May 2025 to go backwards into Pisces on September the 1st, 2025 to get finally into Aries, starting a whole new cycle, which it just tapped into here for a few months in spring 2025. Finally in mid-February, Valentine's Day 2026, the new round will be initiated. So we're on an ending phase. That is very important to keep in mind. And actually, Saturn is just one of the planets which will shift signs around that time. So will Neptune enter Aries pretty much simultaneously, and Sedna a little ahead of the time, but also still wavering forth and back over this 0 Gemini line. Sedna actually will first time go into Gemini by June 15 this year. That's just a few months away. This will be an interesting shift of energy to be looking for. Sedna as being that cosmic library which is now all opened up of past secrets and treasures of wisdom from the deep oceans, so to say, which the oceans, the deep ocean naturally is a symbol in that sense. So from deep down they're brought up into the surface, and Gemini being the sign of Mercury, of sharing, of exposing and communicating. This will enter a whole new or open a whole new area, a whole new era of bringing all that knowledge into the collective consciousness. And this will be for many years, probably into 2040 or so, for sure, 2050. So anyway, this is a super important moment when Saturn entered Pisces, and we look at that from all angles. Now, let me just first give you a quick flashback into what has been going on in February this month. This is the Sun in February. I wrote on my Facebook page, this is the February in one picture. February 2023, yes, there is a number missing here, you see that. In one picture, 36 different sunspots there were in total, and this photographer did a composite of 28 images each day over the month of February, and you see this beautiful pattern, this energetic blueprint. And my comment was on that, that northern versus southern hemisphere, think of it as mirroring Earth's energetic field, as above so below. And we have 4 major patterns, 2 on the northern hemisphere, 2 on the southern hemisphere, and this one in particular here on the northern hemisphere is super interesting, as it kind of opens up and expands and disintegrates at the same time, kind of releasing its energy from east to west. That is where when we look at the sun rotates in this direction. 14 days it takes in average for any of these sunspots to be visible on the surface of the sun. And because the sun is a plasma ball, it doesn't move at the same speed everywhere. It moves much faster around the equator and much slower at the poles. There is this twisting of energies going on, which is in itself super interesting. So these kind of mid-latitude belts where these sunspots are moving on, they take around 26 days to be on one side of the sun. Now, yes, and then just saying also on the southern hemisphere we have this similar pattern, but it's even more dissolving into thin air, evaporating literally. So there is something of that frequency. Beautiful order, by the way, you see that too. Beautiful patterns these are. I just really thought I wanted to share this quickly here with you, throw it in between. And I will keep today's recording rather on the short side. I only will talk about Saturn's Pisces ingress today in this recording. That's my aim. I want to make shorter and just one theme at a time, and not do too much of compilations of topics in one video, which then is probably a little bit demanding of my how do you say that, of my audience. That's what I'm looking for, right? Anyway, so this is a super important chart, yes, and it is showing our next lesson, our next collective lesson. Saturn always presents lessons to learn, to evolve, to become more rooted in Earth in a way. I mean, Saturn has this gravitational force pulling us down and giving us structure, giving us a form. It's kind of the square is the symbol, if you want, of Saturn to the 4 corners of the world. Make something, bring it into full manifestation. So Saturn being in Neptune's sign, this is interesting. That this really means that Saturn is now even, there's so many levels. I described it in several of my videos. You can go back to the one about Neptune and Salacia, it just really shows that the Neptunian energy is being brought into a clear perspective. That's what these present times are about. Neptune being the one with the many different layers of reality, and we have to, I guess we are step by step introduced to see the many layers. Most people only see one layer or maybe two and think one is more real than the other. Every single layer is as real as the other. Let me just turn on the light here quickly. Okay, hopefully you can see me even a bit better. Anyway, so first of all, just the symmetry here is standing out. If you do the midpoint between Saturn and Neptune, it's 1244, and if you do the midpoint between Sun and Mercury, it's again, if you add those two, is 2444, which again is 1224. So it's really close. They make what's called a planetary picture. So Sun and Mercury are definitely helping here to bring this Neptunian frequency into full sight. And Neptune is up in the 9th house together with the Sun, yes, which is the Sun, the house of higher knowledge, of understanding of the structure of the universe, if you want to say. It's the university, the 9th house, worldviews, philosophies, religion, all that up in the 9th house. And interesting that, first of all, you see that was 1:35 p.m. roughly universal time, and just a short before 12:40, not even an hour, the full moon was exact, the Virgo full moon, 1640, you see. And over Greenwich, 0 meridian, Neptune here at its highest. So overall what this says is that this month Neptune is really in full display on all levels, wreaking havoc on one end of making itself bigger, blowing everything out of proportion. It's becoming so epic in a way, that Neptunian energy being so out of proportion that everybody must be stumbling upon it. That's really the deeper reason for all that exaggeration. And I mean, yes, it's really becoming ridiculous on so many levels what's going on. And I'm definitely not in a funny way most often, but more in a, just all you can say is shake your head. It's just everything is so distorted, out of it just doesn't make sense. And I guess that's what we see, certainly, who are having maybe a little more perspective, because we have been looking at the world in a questioning way since I can start, since I can think back in my early teens. I mean, I was very lucky. I had that guidance from my parents and my teachers. I had great teachers, which all helped me to gain that independence of thinking. I guess we get the guides, we are kind of manifesting our lives around ourselves. That's how one should see it anyway. That brings the power back to you. In a very simple way said, it is the opposite of blaming, to take on the responsibility for whatever we experience as being one important stone on our path. If you start seeing things that way, that will definitely shift everything in a much more powerful way in terms of who you are, what this is all about. Anyway, this is just a short excursion on that level. Now, this was the full moon chart 1 hour earlier, and then you see on full moon Neptune was here in these 50 minutes or so, because Earth turned in this direction. The center of the sky was here already at 9:29 Aries by then. Now what stands out here indeed is Astrea. Astrea, that very helpful energy, an asteroid rolling our sleeves back, getting actively involved in helping out and applying our wisdom in this world. It is that empathic and compassionate energy who feels like wanting to help, wanting to be there and give a hand and improve upon things, taking on jobs and whatnot. And this is just the beginning of this big stellium which goes up to Juno here, all in Aries. You see here is Astrea, then very close by Vesta, Jupiter and Chiron, that's these three here. Then Venus a little bit more ahead here, and then here would be Aries and Juno, all in Aries, and not even forgetting Salacia. So anyway, the main one is definitely Astrea here. If we put that in a nutshell, what all these mean, well, Vesta is dedication, focus, Jupiter expansion, nourishment, Chiron is the healer and the one who is truly interested in easing the situation we are in. However, this is only possible again if we take responsibility for it, and that's very much the case with Aries here. This is all coming to oneself, to one's personal power in that sense. Aries is the head of the zodiac, the beginning in that sense, also the fractal which contains everything, the seed, you could say. Juno being the final one in this big stellium here in Aries. In the very last 2.5 degree segment, which is then dedicated to Piscean, with a Piscean subnode, Venus in Aries knows what it wants. It has a very distinct taste. However, with the Neptunian frequency, because of this last 2.5 degrees, it is in, which has that Piscean sub flavor, it is a deep interest in having that feeling of being one within the ocean with everybody else. It's a truly universal love which is shining through, and this is definitely what we need in these present days. Saturn in itself, in the 8th global house, it's a deep time, a very deep time we are getting into, of unraveling all the shadows, bringing everything to the forefront. Saturn in Pisces, yes, this is coming to terms with collective stuff. It is that ability to sense the collective pain, to feel what's going on in this world on a very deep level, and this is definitely magnified here with the black moon here in the very first part of the chart, the first house. The black moon, yes, it is about facing shadows. There's no way around this anymore. And this is the true awakening which is going on this planet. It goes only through this road. There's no shortcuts. We have to face the darkness. We have to face the shadows. It's the only way we can improve and we can get to a higher frequency. And with Varuna here, which is the gold star in integrity, let me just take my cheat sheet here. Where did I put it? Too many of those here. Oh gosh, where is Varuna? Here, right in front of me. As a protecting one's rights and life in general, that is what Varuna stands for. Ethical, it's the punisher of those who lie and do not honor contracts. And I guess that's pretty clear. That's where we're heading. And the black moon is putting its torch on it, its focus, something we cannot oversee anymore. So this is just well, I mean, I should continue here a little more, because this black moon here is squaring the nodal axis, here the north node at 5 degrees roughly in Taurus, 456. Again, you have to look at the line here which goes here. So squaring the nodal axis, yes, that is just making it really the theme of this evolutionary period we are in. Taurus is the energy of rebuilding, of redefining reality in many ways. That's what's happening these days. The full moon actually in Virgo, very tender and healing and protective. The moon in Virgo is actually one of the best placements, in my opinion, for the moon, as it promotes self-care. It is that ability to be your own parent, to be your own mother, and give yourself whatever you need. So this is promising, and right after full moon, that means this full moon energy will be at the base of these 2 years coming into early 2026 as an intensity level, a high intensity level. And the moon is past full moon, so it's in the release phase, meaning it is having that full charge and knowledge and understanding, and is having its most impact on all and everything that is short after full moon. If you're born in that time, then you will find yourself, yes, having a great impact on your environment. And as all oppositions are, full moons are yang force, I guess is the best way to say it, very outgoing, very initiating, challenging. And challenge is always what allows for reaching a higher level. It is you challenging yourself to a contest or whatever, a task, and then if you're falling short at first, yes, you're trying again, and finally you will succeed. It is really, life in itself would be boring without challenges. I guess that's a fair statement. In the second house, again, this is the Taurian frequency. No, actually it's the third house, sorry. Third house. Which, yes, the third house would again imply the importance of communication, of sharing from a place of taking part in each other's story. Kind of moon is that primal self within ourselves, which feels on a very deep level how we are all connected with nature and with all and everything. Our inner child, you could say, the moon represents. So all that is pointing towards a very strong lunar frequency for these coming 2 years. Now, if we look at the heliocentric chart for a minute of that very same moment, this is the unmanifest energy in the background, which then is expressing through what we looked at. Now, there's a few real marvels in this energetic picture as well, which I want to point out. The first one is here, Mars in the last degree of Cancer, heliocentrically. And if we go back here for a sec, you see here is Mars still in Gemini, edging closer to where it's stationed by the end of last October. So here in the heliocentric, Mars is now in the last degree of Cancer, coming out of this opposition with Pluto. This Mars is supercharged, ready to go into that final battle of doing the right thing for the tribe and family, to be coming together. Mars in Cancer, yes, is very family oriented, very much wanting to help out and take on whatever it takes to bring the group of people around you to a more harmonious and integrated place. That's what Mars in Cancer is all about. Family is a very high ideal. And again, I'm thinking global family naturally at this point here. That beautiful sextile from Sedna. Yes, Sedna is the friend here. We have worked through the dark side of Sedna in many ways on this planet in the last few years. And we have, in that sense, purified that level and are now able to start reaping the rewards, which are coming in form of a way deeper knowledge of what this reality is truly about. Really expanding beyond the Neptunian mirrors of reflections and seeing the deeper truth in what this is all about. Mercury here in an interesting place. This is the ascendant in the discovery chart of the comet, is at 16-17 degrees in Aquarius, and the 17th degree of Aquarius, I just want to refresh that for myself. This is a super interesting Sabian symbol. Again, it's this book here which I'm referring to, which I love, as you all know. This is the watchdog, which stands guard, protecting his master and his possessions. And it is the capacity to protect oneself and to safeguard one's individual rights under complex social pressures. That's where we are in. That comet is definitely tying in here, because this is also the degree where the comet had its aphelion, where it was farthest away from the sun, some 25,000 years ago or so. So it's actually the axis of that cometary orbit here which makes this degree super important. So the comet really brought in this energy in a nutshell of giving us the capacity to find the keys, the ways to protect and safeguard our individual rights under complex social pressures. As I showed you in my multiple recordings, yes, they are a little lengthy. If you're interested, go back to them. It's quite fascinating. I mean, as astrology is in general, it is always a revelation, and one can look at it from so many angles, and it always gives the same fractalized message. Now, if we are here at Sabian symbols, I want to talk about the 3rd degree of Leo, which is the rising degree here in this Saturn incarnation into Pisces. So this degree, this symbol, the symbol of this degree represents a reorientation of one's ideal of action in relation to the collective mentality of the social environment, more particularly a refusal by the individualized consciousness to be bound by biological or social standards. The keyword is independence. We have that kind of frequency in many ways in the last weeks or so. In many charts we found this also again in the comet, and I remember the degree where it I forget which one it was, but this fits totally into this pattern. And then if you look again at the exact degrees of what is grouped here around the ascendant, you have Mars 2907, Varuna 641. If we do the midpoint here, we get to 254. 254 is exactly where Celeris is. Now, Celeris is a centaur, and this is what I found doing research on the internet. This is what various astrologers have kind of come to understand what this little body means. It is the ability to change fixed tendencies in amazing ways. Super, super auspicious in that sense to have Celeris so powerfully placed here in Leo. The sign of self-expression as such. And as you remember, also the comet had lots and lots of Leo energy. It is that solar fire which comes through as, this is me, take it or leave it, and I will stand up and demand my space, my spot. I demand to be a sovereign being, and I do not consent. All of that is very much Leo energy. So Celeris is the recognition of wrong, cannot be unseen and forgotten. What has been seen, yes, it's kind of that, it just really registers, and one has to do something about it once one recognizes it. And it is a transforming energy. It stirs up the desire for reform. And speaking of reform, here is Haumea. That's the Hawaiian fire goddess of creation, of reform, of renewal, restructuring, here in a perfect T-square here to Mars and Pluto. This is dynamic. This is super dynamic. So, last I want to mention here also is this applying Juno-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. Juno, partnership, teamwork, helping each other. There's lots of inspiration around. People are able to fire up one another and to bring forth that Uranian, I would say, thrill of the new, the unknown, the strange, and the even the unknowable. Uranus always brings in all these flavors, electric in nature. And naturally there is this square to Mercury here, which amplifies this. So again, this is all just the energetic background, which then is feeding into the geocentric, how we perceive these energies. So you see, just this was the 7th. Meanwhile, Mars has entered Leo here heliocentrically, and this will be the starting point of my next video. I just really want to keep them short for now, so I'll leave it at that. Again, just to summarize what I said earlier, this is really, and let me just get my book here. Here I have it. Okay, it is Saturn in Pisces waters, is from a very deep place helping to make this formless energy, bring it into a clear frame, make it visible, bring at best a crystallization of that ever so fast shifting and changing, oscillating blur. Neptune really is nailing it down, pulling off its invisibility cloak, so to say. And the path is through uniting, accepting, to feel the world at a very deep level, the pain we are all sharing with one another, helping each other on this very difficult path for many, coming to terms with a reality they have never in their wildest dreams thought would be so I wouldn't say particularly dark, but sure, it is has a very dark note to it. However, the real liberation comes when you can see that dark is as important as light, that it is the two forces, the good and the bad, if you will, which need to be together in the play. It is like the black and the white pixels in a photograph. You need them both for the picture to come out. It is just the predicament of this dimension we are in, that we have to deal with this duality. The more we embrace it, the easier we will navigate through it, and it will be a tremendous journey. You're truly getting to the bottom of it all and uproot all the shadows, so we can start fully anew when Saturn then enters Aries 2025-26. So these 2 coming years are taking us to all these places. It will be amazing, as always, and if we know what to expect, it is a little bit easier. Then we can align with what life is delivering. Anyway, thank you again for joining and listening. If you've liked what you heard, give it a like and subscribe, or even share. And under the video also you find information and a donate button if you would like to support me, which I would very much appreciate. And talk to you soon. Bye bye.